channel. I'm so happy you're here. Today, I'm at my cutting table and in my sewing studio because I have a fun tutorial planned for you. Today, we're going to be turning this adorable block into a pillow. How cute is that? I'm so excited to show you my steps and my methods to turning a quilt block into a pillow. So you will need your pattern. Now, this is a free pattern for you. If you go in the description, there is a link to sign up for my newsletter and you can get this Sew Spangled Block for free. If you do not want to sign up for my newsletter, no big deal. Head on over to mysewquiltylife.com. This is a low price PDF available in my shop. Now, this block you can make two sizes, a 12.5 size and a 24.5 inch size. But I went ahead and made the smaller size because there is not anything better than a cute little pillow in my sewing room or around my house. So we're going to go ahead and get started with making this into a pillow. I will quilt it up, I will show you my supplies, I will show you everything step by step, and then we will have a finished pillow. So in order to make this, you will need to download your pattern first. So go ahead, download your pattern, make up your block, and then head back to this video and let's turn it into a pillow. Okay, let's get started. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started quilting up our adorable Sew Spangled Block. Now, I made two because I was just so indecisive of what I wanted. I originally wanted my background to be super scrappy like this one, but I noticed that my little spool top and ends just didn't stand out that much. So actually this morning, when this happens, I'm like, it'll be okay, it'll be all right, everything's gonna be okay, just move forward with it, it'll look good. But I went to bed and then I woke up and I was like, oh, I'm gonna fix it. So then I made this one. I didn't want to pick apart everything, so I just remade it. And on this one, I just did a single low volume for the background. And for the white pieces in the flag stripe part, I went ahead and just also did one fabric with only making the red scrappy. So I think this is more pleasing to my eye, but I'm still gonna probably quilt this little guy up into a pillow. Now, you will need, in order to make this block, you will need the Sew Spangled pattern. This is available on my website. It's a low price PDF pattern, or if you click in the description below, I have a link in there that will take you to signing up for my newsletter, my monthly newsletter, and you will get this for free for doing so. This is my little special gift to you. This does come with two size blocks. We have your 12-inch finished and your 24-inch finished. Now, I made the 12-inch because I'm a sucker for cute little small pillows, and I think if I quilt both of these up, I think I can put them in my front entryway. I have two chairs with a little small table. I think that will be perfect for the season. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to talk about what you all need. This is the first time I've ever done a video of me quilting this up and doing this, so I hope this goes okay. So you do need your block pressed. Go ahead and make your block and press it. Don't forget, get that pattern. You also need some batting. Now, every time my quilter quilts a quilt, I do usually ask for the remainder of the batting that might have been cut off. And so I actually have a big tote where I keep everything for that. So I did go ahead and cut it down. And then I also have a piece of scrap fabric. Now, I just cut this off a bolt of white, some Kona that I have that I don't really use a lot of. Now that I'm a Moda designer, I use a lot of Bella solids, but there for a while I did use a lot of this Kona snow. So I want to make sure I have a piece of this or some sort of muslin or something that's gonna go inside your pillow. So what you need is your inside of your pillow, your batting, and your block. So all I do is I cut those down. Now, since my block was a 12-inch finished block, so it's 12.5 right now, I think I cut this to about 14, both the Kona Snow and the batting. I went ahead and pressed both of those so that they were nice and flat, because sometimes when I get my batting, it is all bunched up. So I did go ahead and press that, and I like to put the little, this might be controversial, but I like to put the little kind of textured-y side on the back. So what I want to do is make sure this is the smooth side, and I'll just pick off any little bits that might have gotten left over. And what I'm going to do first is I'm just going to align this up. Now, since this block is actually small, I don't really feel the need to baste it with anything, but if you prefer to baste, go ahead here. So what I first like to do is decide what I'm going to quilt. So my favorite thing to quilt domestically on my machine is just straight lines. Now I have a ruler. This is a Creative Grid 6.5 by 18.5 inch ruler that I love to use when I am making my quilting projects. So what I like to do first, I'm going to do 1/2 inch squares. So what I like to do first is I like to find a starting point by taking this 45-degree line that you see. I don't know if you can see that, but your rulers have all sorts of different lines. So the 40-degree line, I am just going to line it up with the top. And I like to get a little more to the edge here. And what I'm going to do with a friction marker, now this does come off with heat, but if it gets cold, it might come back. So just be aware of that. You can also use any kind of marking tool. I like to use this. So with my piece flat and with my line lining up, I go ahead and draw a line, a starting line here. Okay, so you can see that, and I always usually make sure, okay, that actually does line up pretty well with some of the angles I already have. So from here, I flip my ruler around because it is a 6.5 inch ruler, so it has this extra 1/2 inch on the edge. And then I just line my last line up on that 1/2 inch and I mark another. And I will keep going. Not really worried if it's 100% perfect or lined up. I'm just trying to make sure that I am lining my ruler line with that last line that I just drew. Now you can probably see I'm a little off from this line, but to be honest, if it bothers you, you can try to align it, but for me, it doesn't bother me at all. So I will just go ahead and mark up the entire block going this way, and then I will start quilting it. Now I'm just going to finish up here, and I'll speed up or come back to you when I have all of my drawn lines drawn out, and then I will go over some quilting tips. I even draw a little line right there where there's hardly anything. So I've got that side, and now I'm going to just go along this side. Sometimes if you don't have a large enough ruler, you may have to draw half your line and then go back and draw the other half. Now this should be good. I have a ruler that is an 8.5 by 24.5, so I might have to get that out, but so far I think I'll be good. So I'm just drawing these lines. These are the lines that I am going to use to quilt with. So I'm going to go ahead and draw the rest of these lines just going in this direction, and then I will be right back. One thing I did want to say is if you have troubles, especially on a larger block or a larger piece that you're trying to quilt, sometimes it definitely helps just drawing like 6 to 10 lines and then quilting and then coming back and drawing more, because sometimes, I don't know about you, but your project might shift a little bit on you, and if you already pre-drew all of your lines out, you might have to go back. See, look, I missed a line here. You might have to go back and redraw them because it's shifted and you can notice it. So, but if you're basting a larger project, you shouldn't have a problem with that. But I have had that happen a couple of times before, so I just wanted to mention that. Okay, I just finished drawing all of my diagonal lines just going this way, and here is what it looks like. It might be hard to see because it is so far down, but this is what it looks like. You can see all those lines. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to my machine and I'm going to increase my stitch length. I have a white thread RFL 2021, and I think that will work perfect for this project. I'm going to go ahead and increase my stitch length to about a 3, maybe a 2.53, because when I notice when I quilt with a smaller stitch length, it doesn't look as clean. So I'm going to go ahead and increase that. Now, one thing I'm going to start on first is I like to start in the middle and work this way as I sew. I've tried both ways, and I noticed that when I work this way, so what I mean by that is I will sew this line down, then I will come back to the top and sew this one all the way down, come back to the top, sew this one all the way down. What I've noticed when I do that, when I personally do that, I don't get that much rippling. I know you probably, if you've quilted before on your machine, you might have come across some rippling effects. I notice that when I switch it up. So when I quilt and then I move it and then I move it, that creates a lot of rippling. So what I like to do is start in the middle, work my way this way. When I get done, I will turn it around, work my way this way so that it's kind of stretching out the whole time. So I'm gonna go ahead and do a couple lines and then I will be right back. Okay, I've quilted just a couple of lines here, and I start with doing a couple because I wanna look at a couple things. I wanna make sure that my stitch length looks good. I also wanna make sure that I'm still on my lines. Sometimes I could get off. I also wanna make sure my lines are actually gonna still work before I get too involved, I guess you could say. And then I also want to check my rippling. So I think I'm pretty good. I think a little bit right here, but I don't think it's going to be too noticeable. But when I am sewing down that line, I am pulling and trying to make sure I keep this as flat as possible. Sometimes going over bulky seams, especially on your domestic, it can be a little hard. Your needle will try to move where there's not much bulk. So I think that's kind of what happened here a little bit. Is it did shift off of my line a fraction to accommodate that bulkiness. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue sewing this way, then again I'm going to flip it and sew this way, and then I will be right back and we'll draw our other lines going this way. Okay, I just got done quilting the first set of diagonal lines, and I actually think it looks really great. It looks pretty darn good. The back on me always does a little rippling, but as long as it's not happening on the front, I'm okay with that. So this looks pretty great. One tip I have is don't go slow. I like to go as fast as I can because the more you go slow, the more chances that you're gonna move your fabric. You know, when you're trying to sew on a line, you start to kind of go like this, but if you just go fast, you have no choice but to just let it go, right? So just try to stay on the line. So now I'm gonna give this a press, and then I'm going to draw the other diagonal lines the other way. Okay, I just gave it a nice press, and when I press it, I just want to make sure that my iron is not going on the batting. I just don't want to make my iron messy. So I just press just enough to the edge, and then I'm good. So you can kind of see the line is still there where I didn't press as much, but that is just fine with me. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my line, and I'm going to try to find, let's see, which way works best. Okay, let's see. Okay. We've already done that way, so we need to do this way. So again, I will go to my top diagonal line with the top. I'm just going perpendicular now. And I will start drawing lines. And I don't try to make sure that I'm a perfect half-inch square. I mean, you could spend that extra time to make sure that you're perfectly square. What I mean by that is right here, you have your stitched line right here and your stitched line right here. Is that a perfect half-inch square? It might be, it might not be, but you know what? I've never sat at a quilt or a pillow and measured my lines to make sure, or anybody else's lines to be like, hey, your lines aren't perfect. It's just one of those organic things that I like to do, and I'm not trying to be perfect, or else I would have sent this out to a long armer, but we all know that sometimes we just need to quilt things ourselves. So I'm going to go ahead and continue just like I did before with drawing these diagonal lines on my block, and then I will quilt the rest of it. Okay, so I just finished drawing the other lines. Now, the thing I love about this part is now I can just go to town. The quilt top or the pillow top has already been pretty much quilted down, so I don't have to worry about very much rippling. So all I have to do is just start sewing, and I do still stick to my sewing all the way over first, then flipping. That's just out of habit. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that, and when I get back, we are going to trim this up and start on our pillow back. Okay, I just finished up with the quilting for those lines. This looks adorable. I absolutely love this. So I love a denser quilting, especially on smaller projects. So this is for the 12-inch finished block, but if you are making a 24-inch finished block, I would suggest maybe doing 1-inch gaps instead of half-inch gaps. And also a couple other tips. I am actually using my regular foot, not a walking foot. I don't know what my foot is called. I call it an open toe, but I know that's probably not the right way. But I use that foot because my walking foot is broken, and so I actually started doing a little bit of quilting projects on my normal foot, and I prefer it, but I will say if you are using a walking foot, it does grab both of the fabrics at the same time, and it might reduce any kind of rippling. It also helps with thick layers to use a walking foot, but I just use my regular sewing foot that I sew all the time with. I don't know what it's called. And then another thing is you want to make sure that you're starting and stopping like at least a ½ inch off of your project, so that those quilting lines will be extra secure when you do cut them and put your binding on with the backing. So I'm going to go ahead and press this, and then I'm going to go ahead and trim, and we're going to get started on the backing of our pillow. Oh, it looks so pretty. I just think it is so adorable. Look at that. Oh, look at it. Oh, so pretty. Okay, so I just got my rotary cutter mat. This is my pretty hot pink one. I don't really use this one often because I have a larger 36 by 24 inch one. But what we're gonna do is I'm just gonna cut along my edge and not worry about leaving any extra there. I just wanna cut along my edge right there. Perfect. And I do want to make sure that I'm still pretty much square, because sometimes when you do quilt, it kind of flattens out those pressed seams a little bit. So you might see that your block got a little bigger. So I'm going to go ahead and just cut these off here really quick. I'm also looking right here too, trying to align my seams up as much as possible with my lines on my ruler. I do that a lot when I am making blocks, but okay, last side here, and I'm probably a little wonky. It does look a little wonky, but it's fine with me. Oh, that's not too bad. Okay, we're good. We're good. Okay, so I just finished that. Now I can put my sewing mat to the side. So now I have my cute little quilted top. Now, what you could do with this is you could totally turn this into a cute little placemat or kind of a hot pad. You don't have to turn it into a pillow. You can make a lot of different things with your quilted projects. You can even turn this into a cute bag. That would be cute, or like a tub. Okay, so what we're going to do next, you do need some back fabric. So I chose this backing fabric, and I went ahead and cut mine 12.5 by 10 inches. Now that's more than what we need, If you are doing the 24-inch, I would do probably around 14 to 16 by 24.5 inch. That's just me. I like to cut them bigger, and then I will always trim down, because nothing is more annoying than starting with too small of pieces. And what we're trying to achieve here is we're trying to achieve our pillow back. So we need to decide, do we want our pillow back going up and down, or do we want it going this way? Now I think I'm gonna go this way so that my pillow form goes in the side. Now you will see how big these are. See how big these are. So we're making an envelope back here, and see that overlap is just way too big. So I will be cutting them down. But what I did is I cut my pieces 10 inches by 12.5, and then I double folded them. So what I mean by that is I double folded the edge, I pressed that, and then I pressed it again, and I stitched along that side here. Not sure if you can see my stitches very well on the camera. Here's what they look like. I did two stitches, one near the edge, one near the other edge. And that's what it looks like. So once I have that, I'm gonna lay it on my pillow here. and kind of see how much does this overlap, because you want some overlap so when your pillow form is in there, it's not popping out the back. So let's see, I'm gonna measure. I usually like to have 3 to 4 inch overlap. So we have a big one. We have a 5.5 inch overlap, which is pretty large. So I wanna reduce that. So 5.5 minus, let's do 3.5 is 2. So I need to cut, right? 5.5 minus 3.5, yeah, that's 2. So I'm going to cut, let's see, I think I need them, if that's about 3.5. This is all like trial and error when I do this. Yeah, I want to cut 1 inch off of each side. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I never start with any kind of pattern. I just do this. I literally just, I'm going to use my cutting mat to cut off 1 inch. And I hardly ever use my cutting mat for measuring. So this is interesting right here. So I'm going to cut 1 inch off of each side. And I did use about 1/2 yard for my binding and backing. So if you are using the same fabric for your binding and your backing, 1/2 yard would be plenty. If you're making the larger size, about 3/4 yard or 1 yard will work. But yeah, I have my backing and my binding the same. Okay, let's see how that did. See, I'm working on this in real time here. Okay, so we'll see what we have when we lay this together really quick. See what we have. That's a pretty good, I think that's a pretty good, yeah, that's pretty good. So let me measure it and see exactly what I have. Now I think my pieces might be a little larger than my pillow top, which I'll cut those down. Yep, exactly 3.5. So good. Okay, so about a 3.5 gap works great. Now I'm just gonna measure my pillow top again and just make sure that we are at the right size. So we are a little less now that I made it. So now I'm at 12.25. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut my pieces to be 12.25. I have a larger Creative Grids ruler that I like to use. So I'm just gonna go to one side and measure. Look, we're a little crooked, which doesn't really bother me. So we're just gonna take that little bit off. You don't probably have to do that at all. You could just go with what you have, but I really don't like having anything excess that I don't need, because it'll kind of trip me up when I go to sew this together. Okay, so now we are ready. So here's what I do. Now you could, if you don't want to do binding, you could do this. Put these together, right sides together. Look, my seam is a little wonky. It's fine though. You could put those together and you could sew around and then turn it inside out and then just kind of prob your edges, make them straight and press, and you won't have to worry about any binding. You could also add some fun little lace or frillies in there, but I love a pillow with binding. So I've got my binding ready. I already pre-made it and I am ready to go. So I'm going to show you exactly how I put this together. So you want to make sure that your wrong sides are together, because really we don't have to turn anything inside out at all. We are simply wanting it to be together like this. And what I do here, and you could probably go even smaller on that gap. What I do here is I put my backing pieces together and then I go ahead and clip. I like to clip everything I do. I've got these fun little wonder clips. And what I'm going to do next is I'm going to baste stitch. Now, you don't have to do that if you don't want to. You could just go ahead and start sewing on your binding. But I don't ever have great success with that. If I base stitch it down, I'm doing a lot better. So I like to go ahead and put all my wonder clips all the way around. I should have enough. The only thing you have to worry about is this back piece shifting on you when you're sewing. But I'm going to sew this side up. Some people will sew this side down, but I'm going to sew this side up. So all I'm doing is I'm base stitching. So I'm probably gonna go with a 4 or a 5 stitch length, and I'm gonna go as close to the edge as I can. I'm just trying to get that secure, so when I do put my binding on, I don't have to worry about this moving at all. Now, again, some people don't do that at all, which is fine. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that, and I will be right back. Okay, I just got done doing a basting stitch all the way around. Now this stitch is large. I did a 4, and I like to do that so it doesn't shift, and sometimes you might not catch the fabric. See how that shifted a little bit? That's why I like to make sure I'm doing a basting stitch. And you want to make sure you're going as close to the edge as possible, because when you do your binding, when you sew your binding on, that basting stitch will just disappear within the binding. Okay, so now that I have that, here is our flap. Oh, it looks so good. I actually have a pillow. I actually don't know if this is gonna fit. I've had this for years, and I've just never made a small enough pillow that I could use this with. Normally I have to make my own pillow form because it doesn't fit, and then I probably don't actually finish the pillow and make it into a pillow, because then I have to make something extra. So this is a 14 inch by 14 inch, and I usually like to have about 1.5 inches or 2 inch larger than my finished piece so that it does fill it out well. So this is 12 inch, so that's 2 inches, so that's pretty big. So I don't know if that'll actually fit. I don't like my pillows to be super firm either. Okay, so the last step I'm going to do is I'm going to sew my binding on. Now you're just going to sew on binding how you would normally do it. So I always sew to the back first, and then what I'll do is I'll flip to the front, and then I will sew right on the edge. This is called machine binding. I don't hand bind anymore, so I will flip it over and I will just sew right on the edge. I've gotten pretty darn good at that, but if you don't like to do that method and you prefer to hand bind, go ahead and sew to the front, flip over to the back, and then do your hand binding. So I'm gonna go ahead and put the entire binding on, and after that we're gonna have a completed pillow. How fun! Okay, I just got done putting the binding on. So, and I like to sew with a straight seam for some reason. I never do an angled seam when I sew binding, and it's a little tight, so I had to pull it a little bit, which it's gonna be just fine when it's finished. It's not gonna bother me. So what I like to do is I like to trim off these little corners here. I don't know if anybody else does that, but I just feel like it helps me flip that to the front. Now, the next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna press all of this binding open like this. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that, and then I will be right back. Okay, the next thing I do to finish it off is I pull all that binding to the front, this. And then what I do, since I machine bind, I will go ahead and what I like to do is I try to get the edge of this binding as close to the line that I did when I have first assembled that binding. What I don't want to do is go too far in, because when I sew, then I'm going to have this line all the way on the back, and sometimes that happens to me, but sometimes I can get it just right. And usually what I found is it's like the top of the, like the front of the clip is where it's good. You see how that lines up really good right there? That clip and that binding just line up as it's supposed to. So I will do this a little ways. I will do it a little ways this way. And what I'll do is I'll just start sewing just at the edge of this line, and then I'll go and do my mitered corner, and then I'll continue on. So when I get back, we'll have a finished pillow, and then I'll put my pillow form in it and see if it fits, and then we'll be finished. This is so exciting. Okay, I just finished the binding. Oh, it looks so good. I know I say so a lot, but it looks so good. Okay, so like I mentioned, I like to, I don't know if you're gonna be able to see this, but do you see the little line of my thread? I don't know if I can get it close enough. I don't know if it'll focus, but that is how far from the edge I'm sewing. So, and then this is the back. I do have a little bit of the line that I mentioned, like some of it actually got on the binding and some of it got close to it, but some of it got kind of away, which it's fine. You can't even tell because the thread blends in so nicely with that backing. Okay, so now that we've done this, it is moment of truth. Let's see if this works. All right, pillow, this is your moment. It's your moment to shine. You see if you fit. I just don't know. I don't think it's gonna fit, but we'll see. Okay, this is always hard part, so don't laugh at me. I struggle putting pillow forms in, so we're just gonna see if this works. Okay, hold on. One moment. I probably should have opened the other flap and stuffed it in there first. And this is why it's so important to make sure your flap isn't too big. Yeah, I think this pillow form is gonna be way too big. I think I need like a 13-inch, so I'll probably have to make that, but we'll see. We'll see if we can't get it in there. I don't know if I have any stuffing to make a pillow form right now either, so we'll see. Okay, I'm just kind of shoving it in there. We're gonna see what we get. Yeah, I think it's gonna be too big. Oh, but this is real life, guys. This is real life. And you just see me shove this big old pillow form. Okay. Yeah, that's way too big for the pillow. Way too big. Okay, so I'm still gonna try. I don't know, I'm not giving up yet. It needs to shove a little bit into those corners. So I'm just pushing the corners into it. And then I'm also pushing the stuffing into the corners as much as possible. But it is a big pillow. It's too big, too big. So maybe if you do the 24-inch one, maybe do like a 20, I don't know if they make a 25 or if they just make a 26, but then I'm gonna try to flatten him. Just flatten him. Just flatten him. He's too big. Okay, so here we have, that actually doesn't look too bad. That doesn't look too bad. It is a little too big for my liking, but try to push him down. Push him, push him, push him, push him, push him. Okay, so here we have our adorable pillow. Do you see how that really does make it not pop open? This pillow is a big pillow, so I'm surprised. It like doesn't. That's awesome. That's what I was talking about. You don't want your pillow to pop out like that. So you want to make sure that you have a nice overflap there. Okay, I'll stop messing with it. Okay, so I'm gonna go to the top camera and then show it from the top, and then we will be all done. Okay, so we just got done making this adorable pillow. Oh, I love it so much. Even if it's a little too plush, I guess. Plush for my liking. I like them to be a little bit more, not so fluffy. I don't know how to explain it. That's definitely not the right word, because of course I want it to be fluffy. I guess what I mean is, like, I don't like it to look like this. I really do like the pillow to look straight across. So I will probably make a 13-inch pillow form. That one was a 14, so I'll probably make a 13-inch pillow form. But it turned out so cute. So I love this so much. I say so a lot. I apologize, but this could not be any cuter, and I'm so excited that it's done in time for me to put it on display for the 4th of July. Don't forget to go get this free pattern. This is a free pattern that I'm giving you for subscribing to my email list. Now, my email list I send out a couple times a month with special coupons, special sneak peeks, things I'm doing, anything that's new that's releasing. I try not to bug you too much, but just enough to let you know I'm here and to show you what I have for you. So this is free. If you do not want to sign up for my newsletter, you can do that below in the description. There is a link to sign up for my newsletter, and you get this block pattern, and then you already know now how to turn it into a pillow. So go ahead and get this free pattern. If you do not want this free pattern, what's wrong with you? No, I'm just kidding. It's totally fine. Oh my gosh, I'm not cutting that out. Okay, so it's totally fine. This will be available as a low price PDF on my website. I know not everybody wants to join my newsletter, but if you want this adorable Sew Spangled Block, you have to go get it now. So cute. So I'm excited to see everything you make. Now, I think this would be really cool as a table runner if you repeat the blocks and maybe alternate them, or you can make a little banner, you know, like a little bunting with the different spools. That would be super cute to hang on your mantle. You can turn it into a pillow just like this one. It was so simple. See? Now you know how. If you didn't know how to quilt your block and turn it into a pillow, now you know. And like I said, I love to incorporate binding on my pillow. I think it gives it a beautiful edging, so that's fun too. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Don't forget to show your progress, whether you're making a block, turning it into a quilt, turning it into a pillow, or whatever you want to turn it into. Make sure you share on social media using the hashtag Sew Spangled Block. Again, that is hashtag Sew Spangled Block. So I cannot wait to see. Don't forget to tag me. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you enjoyed this video so that you don't miss out on other videos. And go ahead and leave a comment. Let me know what you're going to turn your Sew Spangled Block into. Are you gonna do a pillow, table runner? What are you gonna do? Don't forget to share, and I will see you next time. Bye, guys. Woo!